Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirits of life, come to me. Really blew in the wind there. Hey everyone, I just wanted to take a second to make a little intro. I didn't get a chance when I was filming my actual message earlier, just because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to say at the time, but welcome to the first virtual service of GNH. I'm Michael. For those of you who don't know me, I can't imagine many of you watching this don't, but it's our first attempt at doing a service without actually being in the church or able to meet. It's kind of crazy. I'm here in North Carolina right now. Everything feels a little surreal, and I threw together this video today just to give us some stuff to think about. So I had a hard time doing this. It was weird talking to the camera by myself and everything. So here it is, my message on COVID and how to be a UU in this COVID pandemic. Okay. It's really hard to talk to a camera. Is that a dumb background? Is that better? It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world. Hello, hey. Hi, hello, hey. Hey, that sounds stupid. Okay, I can't do this. Let's do it, Michael. Hello. That sounded stupid. Hi, everyone. No doubt by now you've heard the news. Actually, the mere fact that you know to tune into this video rather than show up at church this Sunday tells me that you're all too aware of the situation we all face right now. We are in a state of pandemic. And this is kind of unprecedented. There have been pandemics in the past, but the most recent one was about 100 years ago, and the way news spread then was completely different. And we now have the ability, thanks to the internet, Wi-Fi, LTE, etc., to spread information about this virus extremely quickly. And, well, it is a good thing. Truly it is. Well, it's kind of a double-edged sword. I am grateful that we possess this ability because ultimately I think that our technology is leading to us being able to contain a pandemic far more effectively than has ever been possible before. But at the same time, it allows anyone to share anything. And when humans are panicked and stressed, they tend to act irrationally. So there has been a ton of misinformation spread like wildfire. Even just now, I was looking up some information for the purposes of using in this message, and I saw a very misleading headline. Now look at this. I can't with this. When we consider that only about half of people actually read an article, we can see how this article title can be horribly misleading. I mean, come on. This essentially tells us don't buy Tylenol, which is the same thing as paracetamol. It doesn't treat coronavirus. But if you read the article, it explains that it treats its symptoms, which is literally all you can do to treat the coronavirus. This is exactly the problem. People read something that makes them anxious, upset, or otherwise uncomfortable, and they share it without really taking the time to digest. We all know about this problem. And who can blame them? We all act a bit irrationally when we're stressed, myself included. And I would say that it's very reasonable to be pretty stressed at a time like this. I think it's important to be well read, stay up to date on the latest reputable information, and be alert, be aware of the ongoing situation. But, you guys, I just think if you spend too much time reading and researching facts and figures, projections, analyses, and etc., you can find yourself caught in a kind of malignant circuit of negativity. In fact, I believe that focusing too much on even just planning the future right now isn't healthy. While I could talk facts and numbers all day about this thing, I think I'd rather just not. Let's call it what it is. Uncharted territory for everyone on the planet. We've been so caught up in attacking this monolith by looking towards statistics, numbers, and science, and we definitely need that. We need those people who are putting their lives and well-beings at risk, digging into the science to get vaccines, to get treatments. We need people like 5 of my immediate family members that are on the front lines as doctors, nurses, and other health professionals. But even those heroes need to be able to step away for a bit and look at this event through a different lens. One of the philosophies that I always found great for perspective in monumental times like this is the teachings of Buddha. Most notably, I remember learning the quote at a young age: "Do not believe in anything simply because you've heard it. Do not believe in anything simply because it is spoken and rumored by many. Do not believe anything simply because it is found written in your religious books. Do not believe anything merely on the authority of your teachers and elders. Do not believe in traditions because they've been handed down for many generations. But after observation and analysis, where you find that anything agrees with reason, and it is conducive to the good and benefit of one and all, then accept it and live up to it." It's a quote that resonated with me from a young age and inspired my path towards skepticism, reason, and it follows naturally that I therefore became interested in science. So it's at times like this that I find it a little challenging to maybe divert my attention to a different cornerstone of Buddhist philosophy. Buddhists believe that one part of achieving nirvana, or an enlightened state of self-actualization, is first achieving samadhi, which is a state of oneness with the soul and universe. In other words, the sudden realization that one's being is so much more than its physical manifestation as an organic body. This may sound relatively simple, but it's not an easy state to achieve. I know because I've never even gotten close to it and have tried. Mainly because in order to achieve a true state of samadhi, you must have an unconscious ability to exist in the present and be able to avoid sense impressions. In other words, you have to be able to exist without actually perceiving anything with any of your senses. Crazy, right? Yeah. If anyone figures out how to do that, please let me know, because it's supposed to be the last step on the road to nirvana and the key to achieving inner peace, which sounds pretty amazing right now. The key factor and the most difficult part for me is the thought of being entirely in the present. I'm often reminded of that old saying, yesterday's history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today's a gift. That's why they call it the present. And man, it seems so simple when you put it like that, doesn't it? But it's not easy. I'm constantly getting bombarded with news and notifications, interruption and anxiety boosters, emails, texts, calls, messages, likes, tweets, upvotes, DMs, and that's not even when coronavirus is hitting. During the pandemic, it's all multiplied tenfold. Even while I wrote this message, I received like 10 updates with the latest info on coronavirus. And it feels like lately my anxiety is always on the verge of bubbling over. So me and some close family members decided to escape a little bit. We stole away to the mountains near Asheville in an attempt to isolate and maybe come to terms with this whole situation facing us. And here among those rolling valleys and sunlit hills, standing in the wake of a roaring waterfall and among the trees, strong, stoic, and unfazed by the problems of Homo sapiens, it was a little easier to live a little bit in the moment, I think. Somehow, looking over the valleys below from an overlook on top of a mountain made the problems and worries seem smaller too, not just the houses, the trees, and people. I walked along streams and touched old wrinkled bark, balanced on smooth, slippery stone faces and creek beds. And I had some close calls when I slipped in the mud and saw beautiful wildlife existing despite the shadow that has been cast over humanity right now. And suddenly, I realized that though, yes, this is a very, very, very unfortunate event, there's some definite silver linings to be found in all this. Let's talk about those. Number one. It is easier than ever to stay connected with people without actually being near them, which is actually an important distinction right now. Example, this video. Imagine how difficult it would have been for us to do this even just 10 years ago. I made most of this video with a computer I carried around in my pocket. That's nuts. Social distance and self-quarantine is possible thanks to our amazing technology, and it's been proven to work to stop the spread of this virus. That's pretty amazing. I've heard several people of the older generation speak to the fact they're getting a golden opportunity to learn how this stuff works. Several people who have never done video conferencing, live streaming, social media are now learning, and it's bringing young and old people together in a way that just wasn't happening before coronavirus. Number two, acts of genuine human kindness. It's so easy to focus on the bad things people do in situations like this. We're all talking about how everyone is hoarding toilet paper and hand sanitizer and food and, well, everything. Oh, by the way, if you're watching and you're also hoarding toilet paper or any other important provision, go return it. You don't need that much, and all you're doing is adding to the mass hysteria. But it's really easy to gloss over the thousands and thousands of little acts of kindness that are happening everywhere. I've always operated under the impression that humans are for the most part good, and I have to say that coronavirus has done nothing but confirm this suspicion. I've received contact from lots of people that I don't speak to that often, just hoping I'm okay. I've witnessed young people assisting elderly strangers. Businesses have started doing the right thing. making the empathetic and ethical choice to close down dining rooms and prevent the spread, despite the fact that it could be a major sacrifice to their well-being, their livelihood. Many schools are using their fleet of buses to deliver food to families of children who need it. Across the states, even here in North Carolina, doing it in Ohio. Many education companies have offered free subscriptions during the pandemic to make homeschooling easier on parents. Many Facebook posts, like this one, have come up on my feed of people offering to help their friends. And I've heard of distilleries across the nation, like this one, are producing hand sanitizer and giving it away free to at-risk people to combat the shortage due to panic hoarding. Not to mention our amazing, generous President Trump donating a whole $100,000 of his salary. These are just a few examples. When we have a force to unite against, humans have an amazing way of pulling together for the common good, and that gives me hope. Speaking of hope, people are resilient and cling to hope. Yesterday, I took a long walk with Julia in the park alongside a lake. It was beautiful, it was peaceful, but the most amazing thing is that I was so heartened by all the other people there, keeping a safe distance, of course. I passed all these people with just the biggest smiles on their faces, going about their day, people exercising. I even spied a couple of high school age kids studying out of biology textbooks in the grassy green field. And I saw a mother teaching her young kids about numbers while they played in the mud and the rain puddles. I was reminded of the citizens in London during the bombings the Nazis executed that lasted for 8 months in 1940. In the face of that kind of evil, those people had a common cause to unite them. And rather than cowering in fear, the people of London carried about their business in the true British fashion. Amidst rubble and explosions, soldiers and mortar rounds, they took heart in the other people living life as normally as they could and pressed on. And that's what I witnessed yesterday. It was extremely powerful. People can and will figure out how to be alert without being afraid. And speaking of fear for that matter, let's talk about something else. People are doing a good job of taking responsibility upon themselves to socially distance. I really want to make sure that you all understand isolating yourself and quarantining yourself doesn't necessarily have anything to do with fear or being afraid. Making the choice to isolate yourself from others is just as much a dilemma of ethics as it is an act of self-preservation. And so many people, far more than not, are making the ethical choice and staying away from people as much as they can. I was so amazed when the cultural shift happened so quickly and dramatically. We went from kind of almost dismissing an outbreak and taking it very seriously to starting to take a personal, individual responsibility to not contributing to the spread of this virus. And that's the most important thing, that individual level. Each person must decide on their own to behave in a way that helps the greater populace. And despite a few outliers who are usually dealt with swiftly, people have made that choice for the most part correctly and are making necessary sacrifices. And the path forward. COVID has disrupted our immediate future. There can be no dispute. However, I think it's made our long-term goals as a people more clear than ever. It showed us that as a country, our healthcare system is clearly ill-equipped to handle an outbreak of this scale, not the healthcare workers, the healthcare system. It showed us that political leaders must listen to scientists and has pointed out the gross imbalance of wealth in our country better than any event in recent history. I've even heard from someone who was so adamantly against socialized healthcare that he called Bernie Sanders a communist, that universal healthcare seems pretty necessary at a time like this. It's sad to say, but sometimes it just takes a big, catastrophic event like this to change the hearts and minds of people. Maybe this is an opportunity to encourage empathetic decision making rather than just listening to whatever news anchors are saying. I can't recall a time in my life when something that the leader of the free world said was made so obviously not true in such a short matter of time. Though it was tragic and I wish it didn't mean so much loss, I have to admit it gave me a bit of guilty pleasure to see that science prevailed. And we as a people have a better idea of our shortcomings now. I have a lot of hope that this event won't be forgotten and that our leadership will reflect that in the near future. So, what does this mean for us? How do we proceed? That's the question I kept coming back to as the news was breaking of this pandemic. What can we do as a UU community that upholds our covenant we make to each other and to the world? The board, Doug, and I met virtually, of course, to discuss exactly that last Saturday. We actually came out of that meeting feeling pretty hopeful. This is a time when our convictions are more important than ever. Unless you're a researcher of antivirals, a healthcare worker, vaccine developer, or otherwise affiliated with the containment and treatment of this pandemic, the most important thing you can do as a citizen of Earth is just to be a good neighbor to everyone on this planet, because they're all sharing the same universal experience. Everyone is literally in the same boat with this. We always were, but this virus has made it more clear than ever. So here's a little guide on how to handle the pandemic, UU style. Number 1, help break down social stigma that causes more infection. We as UUs are used to changing public opinion and challenging stigma. Let's use our powers for good. There are still people out there who think it's okay to go out and do whatever they want, spread germs, as long as they're not feeling sick. Not true. You could be asymptomatic, or you could have the virus because you aren't showing symptoms yet. There's really just no way to know yet. It's not okay, and it's not fair to those around you. I encourage everyone to use this as an opportunity to teach a little bit about empathy and how your own actions can affect others. Practice meditation and mindfulness. It's extremely important and something that we should be doing as UUs anyway. I highly recommend using this time to educate yourself on forms of meditation, yoga, tai chi, or some other form of mindfulness practice. You'll be a better servant to the rest of the world if you have peace within yourself. Number 3, do not spread misinformation. This one is really hard. We want news to get out to people, but don't be too hasty. If you know a healthcare professional, ask their opinion before sharing something. This is an extremely volatile time for misinformation, so be mindful of everything you read. Number 4, reach out to someone or many someones you haven't spoken to for a while. You'll be surprised at how good it feels to catch up with an old friend, and your own mental health is extremely important at a time like this, so don't take that lightly. Stay connected to everyone, but use this as an opportunity to reach out to those you don't often get the chance to. And 5, most importantly, wash your hands. Alright, thanks so much for watching. Please feel free to discuss whatever you want in the comments. You may need to create a Google, aka Gmail account to do that, but if you haven't already done that, I recommend you do it anyway. It will come in very useful during this time. And if you don't know how to do that, I suggest you open a new tab and Google it right now. Once again, thank you, and I'll see you next time. They told me, son, one day you'll see the world for what it is. What you have to do,
may not always be clear to you. Take my advice, for I am older, I am wise. I've traveled the world, seen her expanse with my own eyes. You see, in life there comes a time when we must put our loves aside. That day hasn't come, so I'll just take a rain check. Worn out ivory and honeyed antique strings, somber melodies across the church they sing. I see that fire in your eyes until the music dies. Now the cold shroud of silence fills the air. So I place my hands upon the tattered strings, and I fill the room with echoes of my plea. And the voice trapped in me now, finally free, until tears filled my eyes, I did sing. It was never a secret that I was not of the crowd, and I was never really fond of being loud. Amidst these screams and the shouts, I would have never made it out without a few warm hands to pull me from the dark. So not alone, but not in strength, I pushed through. It was your smile that drew me close to you. And when all else was changing, I knew you were here to stay. In the face of hate and fear, we knew only love. They told me, take my advice, for I am older, I am wise. I've traveled the world, seen her expand with my own eyes. You see, in life there comes a time when we must put our love aside. But that day hasn't come, so I'll just take a rain check. That day hasn't come, so I'll just take a rain check. They told me, son, one day you'll see the world for what it is. What you have to do may not always be clear to you. Take my advice, for I am older, I am wise. I've traveled the world, seen her expand with my own eyes. You see, in life there comes a time when we must put our love aside. But that day hasn't come, so I'll just take a rain check. That day hasn't come, so I'll just take a rain check. That day hasn't come, so I'll just take a